just started removing, like I said, the cable ends. There was a cable in there, and while I was doing that, I noticed right here, it looks like there was a short there. Looks like a flash. We'll pull that off and find out. At a glance, I don't see any others. Well, we've removed the interconnects. Now I'm going to start measuring cells. See what we have here. 2.68. Well, you can see it, but I can't. 2.90. 2.82. 2.76. 2.68, 3.26, 2.69, 2.74, 2.60, 2.59, getting it close there. 2.53, 2.82, 2.83, 2.80, 2.73. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So put this right here. Let's see what the rest of these read. 2.71. Oh no. 1.73. Shoot. 2.54. 1.73 right there. Well, let me mark that one. I'm going to be pulling these out, cleaning them, and recording the voltage on the top like I always do, but 1.73. Just going through real quick for the camera on these, so that just, I was hoping we wouldn't have any more bad ones. 2.69, 2.54, 2.63, 2.89, dang it, 2.36. 2.47. 2.71. 2.13. 1.73. Whoa, did I knock the camera? Anyway, actually I should have moved the camera further back. Yeah, so we've got, in the front here, we've got 2, 4, 5. 5 bad cells. That's a total of 7 bad cells. Dang. Well, not good news. So, guess I'll contact the owners, let them know what the scenario is here, and it's not good. They've discontinued these cells. That's one issue. The other is, if we replace these, they're not the same vintage, and that's not ideal either. And I don't even know how old these are. We'd have to take a look at the serial numbers. But anyway, yeah. And you can see here it's not a very good fit. I mean, it's loosening up. You don't want these things to move around. You want them to be tight. That puts less wear and tear on the cell, less wear and tear on the terminals. So, but that's not the big worry at this point. So, we'll be back to see if we continue this or not. See what they want to do. This is an example of why ideally you want to have your cells in a enclosed box or containment. And the reason for that was, we've wiped off the top of these quickly, but you saw how dirty they were. And dirt and moisture can cause, you know, paths to, you know, frame to, you know, another terminal, and can cause a slow discharge of the cell, and which will knock your cells out of balance. And over time, I think this was originally done like back in 2018, but I'm not sure. I don't know for sure. But anyway, I think these have been sitting for quite a while. You can see they were quite dirty, and that may have been one of the, or a contributing factor to the fact that we found some bad cells, 5 in the front pack, 2 in the rear pack. The you know, the number of conversions that we've done, the number of cells, these exact you know, CA series CALB cells that we've worked with, we've never had one that's bad or that has gone bad. You know, you saw our Volkswagen Transporter Doka, 8 years in the desert, but those cells were in a weather-tight compartment, what they call the treasure chest, and they had a little bit of dust, but because the thing had been off-roaded, but you know, nothing. This has never been driven, was far worse. So I think that's a good case for enclosing. Like I said, the Doka, after 8 years, the cells are fine. We're driving that car. This thing has never been driven, and with the way things are now, can't be driven. So fortunately, we were able to get 5 more cells. We're going to run with 27 up front, 20 in the rear, total of 47 cells. So we only had to source 5 cells, and we were able to do so. So we've got those on the way. We've got the rear battery box being made at the fabrication shop. So what we're going to do here is we need to come up with a system to contain these cells. And you can see these are quite loose in here. And that's easy. We'll put a ABS shim in there and snug these things up. Both, there's a space widthwise and lengthwise, and that's an easy fix. But we're also going to put something across the center of these to hold them down. So we'll need 3, because there's 3 rows. So we'll need 3 things to hold these down to keep those cells from bouncing up. You can see how loose they are in here, that, you know, a speed bump could have caused those cells to go up and come in contact with that aluminum plate, and that would not have been a good day. So they need to be properly contained. Like I said, ideally in a closed box, keep them clean. So we're not here to totally rebuild this thing. We're here to get it running, and you know, take care of some of the safety issues. And having the cells loose in there could have been a safety issue. So we're going to take care of that. Having cells loose in the back end, same thing. So we're taking care of those things. We're going to go through and check and make sure the wiring is correct. I've already just, you know, casual glance, found several things that need to be rectified. So we're going to be doing that as we go along. As soon as we design our hold down for these front cells, then we're going to work on the 12-volt wiring, which I think I mentioned earlier. And we'll start from the battery and walk around to all the systems to make sure everything's wired up correctly and ready to roll. I've already noticed there's a lot of bad crimps in this, and so wires just moving them a little bit, they fall out of the connector. So we're going to kind of inspect all those things so that this thing can be drivable and hopefully give them some longevity. But the other thing that I want to do with this, because of the way these are as far as inspection, is that, you know, the way it is now, you have to wire them all up and then put everything together in order to charge these. And so what we're going to do is come up with a method to where, you know, everything, all the components are on that component board, and we can hinge that board up to allow access to these for, you know, inspecting the torque on your interconnects, for keeping the cells clean, and for monitoring while we're charging. I always like to be able to check while we're charging our pack to make sure that all the cells are staying together, and that when we're at our charge to voltage, you know, that there's no issues. Your cell with the least capacity will be the first one to start spiking up. Same way if you top balance and you're discharging, it'd be the first one to drop off. Well, we bottom balance, and then we typically charge to 3.5 volts, and that's right at the point where you might see one that's, you know, quite a bit less capacity than the others will start to head up, and it's not an issue because then when we're shutting it off, and that's right at, you know, at the end of that charge. But in order to inspect them, we have to have accessibility to them, and you saw how it was before. There was 3/4 of an inch between the bolt heads on our interconnects and that aluminum plate, so kind of hard to get in here and look at things. Now, you could wire it up like a BMS where you have wires going from each one of these to somewhere else, but you still don't have access to keep things clean, to check torque, whatever else. It's just nice to have that accessibility. So we're going to come up with a hinged scenario, which means we're going to have to move that board back. Remember, it was underneath this grill area here, so we're going to have to come back enough to where we clear, so the whole thing's going to move back a little bit, and we'll hinge it off the back. We got to have our wiring and everything run that's off the back end so that it's able to hinge without, you know, any problems with the cabling on the front like it was before. I mean, you'd have to have a long length. The hoses for the cooling on the controller, they already had a fair amount of slack in them. We'll probably have to put new hoses in but you know, I'm not going to redo everything. Like I said, we're going to remount those things. They were not sufficiently held in place, no locking mechanism. It was just small screws. So we will fix that part, but I'm not going to change locations or anything and do all that. We're trying to balance the big picture, make it safer, make it to where it's going to have the longevity, and keep the price, you know, down, so that they're not having to, you know, a whole new. There's so much that we have to do already, and we're just trying to keep that cost down. So anyway, that is the current status. I'm going to be pulling these cells out of here now, and we'll record the volt of each individual one. We just recorded the ones that were bad, that were below, you know, 2.5 volts. And these will get removed, and we'll totally discharge these all the way down, and then we can take them for recycling. But we usually completely discharge them before we do that. So they'll all be recorded, and then what we're going to do is we take those that are below our target voltage of 2.75 volts and mate those with one that's above 2.75, and we'll try to find them that, you know, equal distance, so that when we wire them in parallel, they'll balance out to our target voltage. And at the least, we want them at that target voltage at 2.75 volts or greater, and then we'll just bring them all down to the 2.75, put them back in here, and charge it up as a pack. Another thing that we do, you can see the oxidation on these, and so we give them with some emery cloth, a light sanding just to remove the oxidation prior to doing the interconnects. I think that's all I got to share at this moment. We'll come back once I've pulled all these out. Like I said, not too exciting. I'll pull all these out, record the voltage of them, and then I segregate them out like you saw before, and we'll take it from there. We're going to use this little setup right here to remove the first cell. A couple lugs with a rope, and we just lift one out, and once that's lifted out of the box there, now we can get the others out easily. But getting that first one out can be a little more difficult, especially if they're a little more snug, but this method makes it nice and easy. So here are our batteries segregated out. We've got right here, we've got all the ones that are below 2.5 volts that are trash. We got 7 of those. And then we've got those that are below our target voltage, so they're below 2.75 volts, but above 2.5. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. So that's 19 of those. We actually have 2 that are at 2.75 volts, which is our bottom balance target voltage. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 3. We have 21. Perfect. So we have more that are over 2.75 volts than we have that are under 2.75 volts. So that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one of the overs with one of the unders and bring them up to the 2.75 volts. And so what I'm going to do next to kind of help facilitate that is that we'll go by and we'll look at each one of these, and we'll go you know, a plus or minus. So this one is 2.76, so that's a +1. So we can mate that with a -1 and bring them to that 2.75. So we'd go with the one that's at 2.74 and put it in parallel with this one. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'll go through and do the math and go plus, 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 and then minus, minus, minus. And then
I'll know, which ones are a best mate for doing our parallel pairs, and we'll leave them that way for several days, and in the interim then I can be working on the Jeep. And so one of the first things I'm going to do is we're going to come up. I wiped it out a little bit. There was quite a bit of coolant sitting in the bottom of this thing and on the sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with our hold down, keep the things in the box, and so that's what I'm going to work on next. And once I have the box and that part done, then we're going to work on I think maybe I'll switch over and work on the 12-volt wiring next. That, or work on the plate, the component board that goes on top here. Maybe I'll do that next. Get the hinging figured out and all of that. So plenty to do. I mean, I got to figure out where all these go and where they should go and so forth. Well, this is the first group that I'm equalizing here. Some of them, a lot of them, are equal. So a minus 16 and a plus 16. So those should balance out to the 2.75. But then there were some that, like here's 21 and 50. So these are both going to be above 2.75 volts, which is okay. We can bring it back down. It's easier to bring it down than it is to bring it up. If you had a situation where you didn't have cells to bring them up, put 4 that are as close as possible to one another, put them in 4, wire it up in series, and then charge them up as a 12-volt battery until it exceeds the 2.75 volts, and then you can drop it down to bottom balance them that way. But here we're fortunate enough we have a lot of them that are the same, and so we're doing it that way. Works out well. But I only have so many of these jumpers made up, so I'm doing about half of them at one time. So we'll let these sit a few days, and then I'll do the balance of them.